The moment the final whistle blew and the scoreboard locked in that humiliating 23-10 loss, the truth slammed into Detroit like a cold slap to the face, and there was no hiding from it, no sugarcoating it, no inspirational post-game speech that could save what had just happened, because this wasn't just another loss. This was an exposure, a public unraveling, the kind that forces uncomfortable questions and brutal honesty. And that's exactly why the noise around Dan Campbell and Jared Goff is now deafening. Because when you get embarrassed in a game where the opposing quarterback barely throws for 3 net passing yards, when your season ends not with a fight but with a whimper, when your offense looks lifeless and confused while your defense is gasping for answers, you don't get the luxury of patience anymore. You get scrutiny, you get outrage, and you get the kind of firestorm that only comes when expectations collide with reality, and that collision happened violently on this field against Minnesota, a team that didn't even need offense to end Detroit's year, because the Lions beat themselves over and over again with turnovers, indecision, and a complete absence of urgency. And now people are asking the question nobody wanted to ask a month ago, whether this version of the Lions, led by Dan Campbell and Jared Goff, has officially hit its ceiling, and whether the bold experiment that once looked inspiring has quietly expired. This all unfolded on a night that was supposed to be about resilience, about staying alive, about fighting for a postseason lifeline, but instead it became a postmortem, as the Lions were eliminated from playoff contention in a game where the Minnesota Vikings barely had to do anything offensively to win, because the defense did everything for them. And that's where the conversation truly begins. Because this wasn't a fluke, this wasn't bad luck. This was a collapse that had been building for weeks, and now it finally detonated on national display. The Vikings, led by Brian Flores's suffocating defensive scheme, forced 6 turnovers, completely dismantled Detroit's rhythm, and made Jared Goff look uncomfortable, hesitant, and overwhelmed from the opening snap. And when the dust settled, the Packers were celebrating a playoff clinch, the Vikings were walking away victorious, and the Lions were left staring at the wreckage of a season that once promised so much more. If you're here watching this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and stay locked in. Because what we're about to unpack goes far deeper than one ugly loss, and this conversation isn't going anywhere anytime soon. What makes this collapse sting even more is that it didn't come out of nowhere. There were warning signs. There were cracks forming. There were moments where the Lions looked less like contenders and more like a team barely holding itself together with optimism and hope. And yet, the belief remained because of what this team had shown in previous seasons, because of what Dan Campbell represents, because of the idea that grit and toughness could override inconsistency. But football doesn't care about narratives, and it definitely doesn't reward emotion without execution. When the game actually kicked off, the Lions looked like a team unprepared for the moment, and the numbers were brutal. 8 turnovers coming into the game, 6 more added in one night, and suddenly the identity that was supposed to define this team completely evaporated. The offense couldn't run the ball, couldn't protect the quarterback, couldn't sustain drives, and couldn't respond when punched in the mouth. The most alarming part wasn't even the turnovers themselves. It was the way they happened. These weren't freak bounces or unlucky tips. These were forced mistakes, bad decisions, miscommunications, and a lack of composure. Jared Goff, who has thrived in controlled environments and structured systems, looked rattled, and that's something defenses around the league have started to notice. Brian Flores didn't just outcoach Detroit, he exposed them. He showed exactly how to disrupt this offense, how to force hesitation, how to turn aggression into recklessness. And once that blueprint is out there, it doesn't disappear. Dan Campbell taking over play calling was supposed to spark something. There was a belief that his aggression, his feel for the game, his emotional leadership would inject life back into this team. Instead, it often felt like the same old issues resurfacing under a different banner. Over-aggressive decisions, missed opportunities to take points, and a refusal to adapt when the game demanded patience instead of bravado. This wasn't the fearless confidence of a coach in control. It was the stubbornness of someone trying to force an identity that wasn't working in that moment. And that's where the conversation gets uncomfortable, because this isn't about one game. This is about a pattern. The Lions were supposed to take the next step this season. They were supposed to be contenders in the NFC, a team nobody wanted to face. Instead, they're sitting on the outside looking in, watching other teams celebrate, while they're left explaining what went wrong again. The defense, battered by injuries, never fully recovered. The offense lost its rhythm. The balance that once defined them disappeared. And when pressure mounted, they cracked. Meanwhile, Minnesota did exactly what disciplined, well-coached teams do. They leaned into their strengths. They didn't ask their offense to do more than it could handle. They trusted their defense, trusted their preparation, and trusted Brian Flores, who once again reminded the league why he's one of the sharpest defensive minds in football. This was a masterclass in winning ugly, in winning smart, and in exposing weakness. The Vikings didn't need fireworks. They needed execution, and they got it. What makes this even more damning for Detroit is that this was supposed to be their moment of resilience. Instead, it became a highlight reel of everything that's gone wrong. The inability to run the football when it mattered most, the turnovers at the worst possible times, the lack of adjustment when the game plan clearly wasn't working, and perhaps most troubling, the sense that this team didn't believe it could flip the momentum once things started going south. And now the questions are unavoidable. Is Jared Goff the guy who can take this team where it wants to go? Or is he simply good enough to keep them competitive but not dangerous? Can Dan Campbell evolve as a head coach when the emotional fuel runs out and tactical precision becomes the difference? Is this roster truly built for sustained success, or did it overachieve before the league caught up? These aren't overreactions. These are the questions that come when expectations meet reality and fall short. The harsh truth is that this season will be remembered not for what the Lions almost did, but for how they collapsed when it mattered most. They had opportunities, they had talent, they had belief, and yet, when the pressure intensified, everything unraveled. That's why this loss stings so deeply. It wasn't just a defeat. It was a verdict on where this team currently stands. And while there's optimism baked into the future, with young talent, smart drafting, and pieces that could still form a contender, the present moment is undeniable. The Lions were eliminated by a team that barely threw the football. They were outplayed, outcoached, and outclassed in the moments that define seasons. The defense fought, but the offense collapsed. The vision blurred, the identity fractured. As the dust settles, one thing is clear. This offseason is going to be loud in Detroit. Questions will be asked in every direction. Decisions will be scrutinized. And the patience that once surrounded this team is starting to wear thin. Because potential only means something if it turns into results. And right now, the results tell a brutal story. This wasn't just a loss, it was a reckoning.